Online with Amr The Internet Guy. Stream it today on your favorite podcast platforms. This podcast focuses on entrepreneurs and business owners, helping them become more successful in conducting their business on the web without being stuck with technology, getting a headache, pulling their hairs out, or buying expensive software.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Online. Before we start, I'd like to wish you all a happy new year, and I hope that you've had a great time over the holiday period, and I wish you all the best and all the success that you deserve in 2022. This is episode number 29 and is the first one of this year. I was contemplating whether I want to call, the 2022 episodes series 2 and then have it as the first one in series 2, but I quickly realized that it will confuse everyone and I would just keep the numbers in sequence. It makes everything easier for everyone who's listening to us. I also wanted to thank you for listening and for listening to my podcast and for sending your great emails and other comments that you do. Please keep them coming. And I also would like to thank everyone who had suggested guests for me to interview. And my apologies for sometimes for not responding earlier. It just has been a crazy year too. 2021 has been a crazy year, and I'm hoping to get more of a work-life balance in 2022. So let's talk about today's episode. My guest today is a software entrepreneur. He's a founder and a CEO of a software company that is aiming to reduce the friction of performance marketing. And if you feel that this term is a bit strange and kind of new to you, it was to me too, but listen on. You will enjoy this one very much and you'll learn a lot. We are also discussing why direct mail is still a very powerful business tool and a very powerful marketing tool. And direct mail, what I mean is actually not email. Mail as in post, as like snail mail, things that you can touch, things that you get in your mailbox. And yes, we do get some spam there too, but also it is a marketing tool that still works. So my guest today, Dennis, would tell us how he was able to actually couple the old with the new and inject new digital life into a century-old industry. So without further ado, let's meet Dennis. Hey Dennis, how's it going?
Good, Amir. How are you today?
All good, thank you. So you're at the other end of the continent. So would you please tell our audience like where you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm the CEO of a software startup called Postlytics, and I'm located in Rockland, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston.
Try to say Massachusetts 10 times, guys. Like, I don't know. You said it really well. Like, I can't. It's every time I do it, I make a mistake.
Well, I try to say it without the local accent, which is very strong. So those who know the Boston accent know they'll recognize it immediately.
Massachusetts. Oh God, Massachusetts. I'll train after the podcast. So you've been in software, it looks like, for what, the past 30 years?
Yeah, roughly. Yes.
Building softwares for 30 years. I mean, I can't remember what softwares we were building 30 years ago. I mean,
believe it or not, the software did exist before the internet.
I know. I mean, my first experience with software, I think, was when I was in university, and or maybe school, a little bit before university, and that was in the 80s. But it was so boring. Well, until the internet became mainstream, things were boring.
Well, I think the thing is that computing has become so inexpensive and accessible for everyone that and each time there's a major innovation in the hardware or the networking, the cost of accessing software drops significantly. And, I was very fortunate to have been around for the very beginning of the PC revolution when computing systems are moving out of big, they were ironically called mini computers that were larger than my desk.
Yeah, they're called mini. Yeah, because the other
Yeah.
computers took a whole room.
That's right. That's right. And so at the beginning of my career, I was my first company. We transitioned into the PC environment, and that really helped that company explode because the cost of providing access to people in a business dropped dramatically.
Yeah. So like I've read a little bit about what you do, but I don't want to burn it or spoil it for people, but it says that you've exited software companies 4 times. So I wanted to ask, like, I've had an interview with a gentleman who he's not in tech, but he's a consultant that helps people exit. And we were joking because we were saying that once you build a new business, you should plan your exit that early on. And of course, I mean, that was a joke, but he says nowadays it's becoming this way, specifically with, tech companies attracting venture capital. And what they want to do is just grow it to a certain extent and sell it. So from the beginning, the selling part is in the plan and they're working on it. And I thought that in what used to happen was that you build, grow, you're enjoying, but you just get an opportunity that you weren't thinking about. And so I'm interested to know what happened. Let's talk about the first time.
Well, I think that at least for my first startup that I was involved in, it was certainly not built with a specific exit in mind. And, I think it almost happened in a way that you just relayed, that we were heads down building a business, and an opportunity came along. We're a deep-pocketed larger player in healthcare software, came and made an acquisition offer. They wanted to sort of strategically change the direction of their business, and so anyway, that one, the first one was, I was very young and really had no idea what I was doing, and but we had a nice outcome, and but since then, I think that for me, the right thing to do is think about a business that has several potential exits, and not just one, right? But after you've done that, and you've chosen what you're going to do, and you've chosen a business that could go in a lot of different directions, then I don't think that it makes sense to overly focus on exit. I think that if you're in a space that will have some competition for your business, then you really should focus on building a great business, and that will vastly outwork any planning that you can do around an exit. And so the stronger that your business is, the more people want to buy your stock. And sometimes you sell a little bit of stock, sometimes you sell all your stock, depending upon what's going on with a lot of different things. And so, it's not that dissimilar to publicly traded companies. Great businesses attract lots of people that buy the stock, and the price goes up. It's the same with a private transaction. So, if you focus on building a business with great customers who are happy, great employees that love what they do and are excited to do their work, with strong financials, in a strong position where you don't really need to do anything, that's the position you want to be in. You want to be in a position where you don't have to exit. And so you have to make the acquirer work for it.
That's a good plan. Was it bootstrapped?
So my current business Postalytics is bootstrapped.
Okay.
It is. I've had other businesses that have been angel funded, venture funded, as well as bootstrapped. And I think that as I've gone along, I've been able to move away from bringing in early stage investors who you end up selling a lot of your stock to.
And, you dilute your
yeah. So early on, that's what we would do, and now it's less that way. The folks that I've got involved with, or we have some resources, we're able to do this kind of on our own. And the longer you can go without bringing investors, I think the better off you are. I think that there is a point where you in order to take advantage of the full opportunity, when everything is clear and you've got your sales are growing faster than you can deal with, and you need bodies to deal with customer service and finance, and things are just piling up and you can't keep up with it. Sometimes it makes sense to bring in investors at that point. But if you can engineer things to go a very long time without external investors, you're going to hang on to much more of the value that you create.
Indeed. And you won't be pushed to do things that may or may not make sense to you at the time.
Yes, it's true. It's true. And, I've learned painful lessons along the way that, you need to do what's right for the business, not for the investors.
Yeah. And I mean, this is funny because sometimes when people like acquire a company or majority stake in a company, sometimes they want to make a change just for the sake to be seen to be doing something different, rather than, is this necessary? Like, is it going to give us a better return, or is it going to make the customer happier or the employees happier? Like, there's no point doing a change that has no goal.
Right. And, sometimes things can look obvious from the outside, but then after you spend some time with the business, then perspectives can change. And
of course, yeah.
I think I think it always makes sense to in any type of acquisition, in order to have success, to keep the team together, keep them focused on their short-term goals for 6 months to the first year, and then start to layer in changes over time.
That's great advice, Dennis. I'm interested also. Okay, I don't want to dive into Postalytics and make this seem like it's an ad for Postalytics, but I'm interested also, you've been building software for, sorry, I don't know what's wrong. You've been building software for like 30 years. And I was in the software industry for some time, not 30 years, but I've been 30 years in tech, but it's not necessarily in software. And usually people go build a solution because something is missing. So something isn't working or isn't working right, that there's a problem that needs to be solved. And tech minds would say, you know what, we'll just go and build a solution for that. So I'm interested to know, what was the issue that triggered, okay, let's go, I just want to talk about the current solution because that's current, right?
Yeah.
So what happened? What did you see, and what did you see that needed fixing?
Well, it's a very interesting story, and it really is an evolution. It was not sort of a brainstorm that we had out of the blue, or due to early market research. So Postalytics reduces friction in the creation and the integration and tracking of direct mail marketing campaigns. And so, direct mail is a form of marketing that peaked in terms of overall volume and size around 2008, and has been in a sort of slow decline ever since, but it still represents about a $40 billion industry in the United States alone. So big business, and it has suffered from a lack of technology investment
Are we talking about, sorry, direct mail as in physical to your doorstep, right? Not
You
email.
got it.
All
Not
right.
email.
So we're not
No.
talking email campaigns, guys. We're just talking about, so, I mean, because I'm, I don't want to say the word I'm old, but
I'm old. I'm old for sure.
I'm from the era where we used to get phone books dropped at our doorsteps. So that's
Yes. Yes.
and catalogs, and like we didn't have online shopping, we had phone shopping instead. So they'll send the catalog to your house, and then if you're interested to buy it, call a number.
That's right. That's
So
right.
that's the industry we're talking about.
Yeah, postal mail used for advertising and selling, and it was actually the first form of performance marketing, very data driven, analytical in its approach, and so the company started several years ago when my partner, who's a technologist, he and I reconnected. We've done a couple of businesses together, kind of moved to some different areas, ended up moving near each other, and he showed me some software he was building as sort of a side gig. And he had a business. I just sold a business, and was looking for the next thing. And I enjoy working with this guy, really smart. We have a good long-term friendship and working relationship. So there's a level of trust there. And so he showed me the software. It was in marketing technology. It helped people in the direct mail business measure the way that people go online to respond when they get a piece of marketing mail. And he said, hey, we could do some interesting things with this, put some email marketing with it, some text messaging marketing with it. We can sell it to people that are doing direct mail campaigns and give them a digital element to this kind of older technology and older way of doing marketing. And there's a lot going on, heavy investment in marketing technology, not a lot of investment in this space from venture capitalists or other investors. So I thought, maybe there's an opportunity here. So we jumped in, built out this first product, took it to market, and worked very, very hard to sell this software package to what I would today call the legacy direct mail industry, right? The folks that have been doing direct mail for a very long time. And it was hard, sales were not easy. And we ended up to be successful. We built a services business. So we'd sell a package, and then we'd go in and we'd do all the work for the client. And after a couple of years, we looked at each other and said, this isn't what we wanted to build. This is going, sideways. It's not really taking full advantage of what we could be doing. And so at the same time, we had people coming to us and they said, hey, I just invested a ton of money in Salesforce to centralize all of my CRM and marketing, and I'd love to do direct mail. You guys are kind of living between digital and direct mail. Can you help us out? And we heard that a few times, Salesforce, HubSpot, different CRMs. And then we thought, you know what? A lot of what we built, we could do something very different with. And so we decided to stop, and we cut the cord on that old product. We took a year and rebuilt the software to come out as Postalytics. And Postalytics solves three fundamental problems with traditional direct mail. We call this direct mail automation. So automating direct mail solves a speed and time commitment problem. So a traditional direct mail campaign takes 4 to 6 weeks with lots of people.
For you to know who's doing what.
To pull it together, get it out the door, and then typically 30, 60, 90 days later, you're pulling together data about what happened. And if you compare that to email marketing, that's insane, right? Like email marketing, you press send, everything's done for you, and you see results as they happen.
Yeah, you get your you
right?
get your open, your clicks, whatever. Yeah,
all that. So Postalytics has took the email marketing software that we built for our own product, and instead of sending out emails, we send out postcards and letters to a network of printers around the country. And so from a marketer's perspective, they can drag and drop and click, press send, and it's gone instantly. And they don't have to worry about lining up contracts with printers, negotiating, figuring out the postage rates.
Oh, you've done that already.
All that's done.
And then
right?
the printers will print and post, or somebody there will take it and post it.
Exactly. And so speed is the number one thing that we solve. Number two is integration. I've already mentioned,
Yeah.
all these businesses are building centralized marketing technology in order to run everything from a single place with one set of customer data. And direct mail has always been done by big spreadsheets.
Yeah,
right?
and it's outside the whole thing. It's like you will not be able, generally, you will not be able to bring it into your CRM.
Exactly. So our cloud-based software connects directly into those CRMs to pull data out and trigger individual pieces of mail to go, pull lists out, send to lists, and it's all done, very quickly with a few clicks, as opposed to this whole other process of aggregating data in spreadsheets and sending it, emailing it around in a very insecure way to all different people, right? So integration number two. Number three is analytics and reporting. And so what we built into Postlytics is an ability to track exactly where your mail is during the sending process. And we've integrated with the US Postal Service, who has an internal barcoding system to track where every single piece of mail is. And so similar to what you get from an email marketing tool, where it tells you, the mail that's been delivered, the mail that's bounced, we get the same data from the Postal Service, and we provide that data in a dashboard. We synchronize it back to the CRM, so you can trigger other things in an automated way when mail is delivered or mail is returned to sender. And then we have the tools that we built for our first product that measure the response to direct mail. We plug that in. So you get the whole thing. You get delivery and response data all in a dashboard, all synchronized back to your CRM. And so the three things we solve: speed, integration, analytics.
The interesting part is many people don't think that the old style sending something by post works, but it actually does. Like I worked with a company here who sent around Christmas time, just before Christmas time, a box of chocolate to all their clients. Right. I don't know, how much it cost, but the response we got, like people would send thank you emails. People, it was a recruitment company. So you call them because you're arranging an interview for one of your candidates. And the first 2 minutes of the call is like how good the chocolate was. Like,
that's great. That's awesome. And you know what? I think there are a couple of things that folks should consider when they think about this. So first, the data shows that in the last 10 years, the response rate to direct mail has doubled. And so, the percentage of people that respond on average has gone from like 2% to 4% for a cold list that is touched. And for a house list or existing customers,
which is something that you can get readily available from your city, or like it's not.
Or
there's no spam, and there's no spam law there. Like
there's no spam law. No.
If they don't like it, they just chuck it in the bin. Like,
well, it's all public data, right? Every address is public, so it's not like you're getting some unknown information. And so response rates have doubled. And if you think about it, the amount of mail that everybody receives has declined, right? So there's less.
So now you kind of like it when you receive something like different. Yeah.
But you still have to get your mail, and you have to look at every single piece of mail, whether you throw it away instantly or not. You hold it in your hands, you look at it, you make a decision. And it's a different experience psychologically than
Yes, indeed.
mass deleting out of your email box, right? So the amount of physical mail that you're receiving has gone down. The number of emails you're receiving and digital messages you're seeing all day has been steeply increasing. So the impact of every piece of mail that you get is now greater. And so it just makes sense that response rates would go up.
What would be like some of the ideas that we can tell people who are not using direct mail, and maybe they will start thinking about it once they listen to this episode? How do I stand out? What do I do? Because I mean, I have some ideas in my head, like, use a colorful card or whatever, but you've been in this the longer, so.
Sure. Well, the number one use case of our customers is augmenting their existing email marketing efforts. And so customers that have invested a lot in email marketing and marketing automation are able to use direct mail to focus on those people who do not open their emails.
Okay.
And so the marketing automation software will automatically segment them, and you can plug Postlytics in, automatically send them postcards and letters of different sizes with different offers that are working together with your other channels.
Interesting.
So having consistency in the messaging, consistency in the branding and the offers from digital to email to physical.
So you want to be top of mind anyway. If somebody's too busy to open their emails, you'd get to them via another channel.
Exactly. And marketing automation lets it all happen. And so once that connection is created with Postlytics, the campaigns are set up, they just run in the background. As emails don't get opened, then the workflow kicks in, sends mail off to Postlytics, that drives people back online. They respond, and then they can engage again through a less expensive channel.
Does it have like a lower cost of acquisition?
Well, it really depends on from a lead generation standpoint. It is become very, very hard to acquire new customers via email, right? For all the reasons we know of privacy.
You're competing with the world, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, there are certain industries that are able to be very, very effective with direct mail. Real estate is obviously one of them, right? And so anybody in residential or commercial real estate or real estate investments, they're using a ton of direct mail. Financial services, right? People are afraid to respond to the emails they get about investments, about
if it's about money, you don't want to click anything.
I mean, how many times have you seen these spoofing and phishing schemes that it's every single day you get something. So it's there's certain direct mail is a very trusted channel, so because you're holding this thing and it can't do anything, right?
Yeah, it will not spy on you.
That's right. So for certain industries, very effective. For and now with automation, you can use direct mail to, like we said, augment your email. So now you can send a single letter or a single postcard out at a time, and we take care of the rest. You don't have to have a list of 5,000 or 10,000. So think about this. You sign up a new customer, you have a new onboarding workflow, right? You sign up for this new service, you get an email from the client success representative, and then trigger a letter from the CEO, a physical letter from the CEO.
That goes to the customer. Yeah.
Right. So in the funnel, in the sale process, post-sale, loyalty, retention, win back, all of these scenarios that marketers are building campaigns around. Now you can add direct mail and not have to worry about the fact you need a list of 5,000 or that it takes 6 weeks to get this thing done, or that the data is not living inside of my CRM. So you can be far more creative with your use of direct mail. Just treat it like another channel that you're running from your software.
Would you say you'd have two separate types of customers? Because I'm thinking probably marketing agencies would be a customer, but also like the traditional, as you mentioned, real estate. So real estate, financial services, and so on. That most of them are kind of medium to large. But for the small business who is not doing direct mail, that we think they wouldn't just, because they don't have a CRM. So, you know, usually they don't have a CRM. They probably have like a MailChimp to do some email campaigns or something similar to that. And mostly they would just go to a marketing agency when they want to do any sort of campaign, and the agency would be like the broker. So with that, because I don't think small business owners, let's say someone who owns a bakery, for example, would know how to make all this work on their own, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very hard for what we call very small business, right? Where your primary focus as a business person is doing everything else other than marketing, right? There are some very small businesses where, you know, you're basically a marketing and salesperson. And, you know, so
Yeah.
we have, for example, we have a lot of people that are trying to buy real estate. And so, you know, that's how they spend their day. And so getting lists is easy, kind of putting together their sales pitch is easy. That's what they do. But like you say, for the baker, you know, you're way better off working with an agency.
Yeah.
A small
But
business
it is an important part of the business to do, because like there are so many things that I can think of, so many scenarios. Like, let's say you have I don't know, you're introducing a new baked product to the market. You want people to come and sample it, right? So
Right.
on that specific day, and usually when you're a local business, you're targeting your locality. So you actually want people who live around your bakery to come to you. And where would you get their email anyway? Like there's no place where, I mean, you can get a list of email with everybody in the country, but you wouldn't know who's exactly in your locality, or
Right.
they're not necessarily your target customer.
Yeah, yeah, and there are a lot of agencies that have sprung up over the last 10 or 15 years that are focused on what we call the local services market, right? Where location is such a primary driver of the customer choice, and so we have a version of Postlytics that agencies can use to work with multiple clients, and so they will work with local clients. And, you know, let's say I'm opening up a new restaurant. Well, you want to get that information out, right? You need to, so the agencies will know how to pull together a list. They'll know how to put together creative that works with direct mail and is out on Facebook and other channels, you know, to really focus on a geography in a coordinated way, so that you can really create awareness in a geography.
Yeah, and then you have your local papers as well. Like some cities have a version of a very local paper that comes to you with a lot of inserts, and that part of it can be, you know, automated as well. Like I don't think like the local newspaper would just usually, if you're a business who wants to advertise, they will just give you the distribution numbers, but there's nothing else beyond that, and you don't know. So with a solution like yours, it's kind of, you know, it makes a lot of sense, because now you know if it's delivered or not, and you know if people have taken the action that you wanted them to take.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know,
It's true. It's true. And, you know, and I'll just make one final plug on Postlytics. You know, we've to date have been operating here in the States. We are very close to launching in Canada.
perfect.
And so we will have Canadian print partners. We've partnered with Canada Post, And so our service will be available to marketers on both sides of the border. And they can, have a list that's combined with US and Canadian addresses. The software will split it up for you, and you can mail to both countries with just a few clicks of the mouse.
Yeah, because you can't cross the border right now on your own. But I mean, you can, but you have to do. This bugs me a lot because Canada has insisted on a PCR test, even if you're fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
And that's about $200 extra. So, it takes the joy out of driving across the border.
Definitely.
Like if you're fully vaccinated, like what else do you want, guys? Just let people move around.
Right.
But yeah, but your letters will move around. It doesn't need you to deliver them. Like
yeah. We use the internet to send the letters to a Canadian print partner so they can do everything locally.
It's an excellent idea, and I think you said it well when you said we're trying to reduce the friction, because I number one, like all of us, we're getting so much spam in our email, and no matter how good your spam filters are, you still get a lot. I mean, it's not necessarily as in spam as in it's classified by AI as spam, but certainly it's like a sales pitch from someone you've never met anyway, right? Like LinkedIn. You say accept, and then the pitch is coming in 2 seconds. But with direct mail, this is the funny part. Direct mail used to be the spammy option before.
Right.
Now it's not.
It used to be junk mail and your mailbox was overflowing every day.
Yeah, but now people, because of the cost involved, because you have to print stuff, because you have to physically deliver stuff, when people compare this to a digital channel, they would almost certainly just do digital only. What they don't realize is that the physical thing, especially if it's well thought of, if it's a card that's like beautifully designed, has a nice texture, color, something that will stick in the person's mind. A friend of mine is a marketer in Virginia. He's a web designer and a marketer. And I think he created a cardboard, like a 3D card, like, you open it kind of, and it looks like a box of tools. It's all just like a cardboard thing, right? So it's flat, shipped flat, but when you take it out, you can just stretch it and it looks like a box, and it says, we'll fix your website, right? It's kind of like intuitive, because you think, if I'm getting this, and he's targeting the local, most of his clients are local. I think they're in Virginia and Ohio. And he already has many of these businesses as clients, but some others are not. So it makes sense for him to remind them with something that they never see anywhere else. It's not a spam email. It's not where everybody else is pitching. Right. Comes to your house, and then you open it. It looks, oh, what is this? And then looks like a wrench and a hammer or whatever.
Yeah, and that is the key. It's how do you stand out? Everything is competitive, and so if you can find ways to reach people in a way that is more creative and is not the exact same way that everybody else is doing everything, you have a much better chance of standing out. And and I think just generally, as it relates to the friction idea, that's what software does really well. Software removes friction. And so, if you're thinking about starting any type of company, and you want to build a software company, find things that have a lot of friction and are hard to do. And so, I think the physical world, which is kind of what, we're really building software on top of the physical world, right? Printing presses and postage affixing, and like our software is layering on top of that. I think the idea of adding software to physical processes is an area that is still kind of wide open, right?
Of course,
if you think about, that's kind of like what Uber did, right? With the app, right?
Yeah, I mean,
physically moving you from one place to another was hard to do, right? If there's not enough taxis, and
I love this analogy, by the way, because here in British Columbia, they didn't allow Uber till very late. Like, I think Uber started sometime in 2013 unlicensed. Like it just sprung out. The software was there in use. People said, yeah, I'll drive for Uber. And the government, the provincial government didn't have any regulation in place. So they let them operate for a few months and then they shut them down until they figured out the regulation. But it took them 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And during that part, all what they were doing, they were trying to protect the taxi unions. Yeah. So, you know, because usually Uber goes somewhere and the taxi drivers complain that they're going to go out of business and whatever. And what I've seen before they finally allowed Uber, even though the rules and regulations are quite more difficult than other cities in Canada and around the world, but even before that, taxi companies thought that all what they needed to do is to make an app. It's just to create an app. They didn't understand that there's a lot of friction points that you have to eliminate first. And one of them was actually customer service. Like, okay, buy the most expensive app in the world, but if the guy is rude, the guy is rude, right? Because I can't, you know what I mean? Like with Uber, when that does happen, or we don't like the driver, he's not, or she's not doing what you want them to do. Like, you know, not just being rude, but maybe, I don't know, they have loud music and you don't like it or whatever, right? You can rate them on the app.
Exactly.
But if you go haphazardly, like I need to create an app in 2 months because Uber is coming, all what you're going to do is just to waste your money on some app that, you know, doesn't give the user what they want. Yes, they can book a cab, but
it doesn't solve many problems to throw software on top of an existing process.
Because there's no process. Yeah, exactly. You didn't.
you need to sort of think of the process from scratch and build that in software.
Yeah, you can't automate a process that does not exist. So you got to write it down on a piece of paper, repeat it to yourself first.
Or a bad process.
Sure. Yeah.
If it's a bad process. You're just making a bad process bad in software.
Yeah, you're accelerating. You're accelerating a bad process. Oh God, we can have a lot of fun with this. You know, all the acronyms we had and all the things, garbage in, garbage out.
That's
like
right. You got it.
The software will give you whatever you put in it. So that's pretty much it. So before automation with anything, even with your marketing, you know, even small businesses, for example, because I know many people within my audience are owners of small businesses. And once they hear the word software or CRM, many of them get scared. So we're not talking about you having to learn something for 6 months in order to make it work. There are so many softwares out there that are very intuitive, a couple of clicks. And then if you watch 2-3 videos, less than 30 minutes, you'll kind of get the hang of it, right? And then as you go and as you grow, you learn certain tricks and stuff. But the idea is you want to eliminate the friction and you want to have a better experience for you as a business owner. So you don't spend as much time in something that doesn't need as much time. And for your clients and customers, you know, that they feel that you're really caring for them. You remember, I mean, think about sending birthday cards to every single one of your customers. If you have even the basic, you know, there are so many free CRMs out there. Like, okay, let's advertise somebody. No kidding. HubSpot, because I'm using HubSpot. I've had the paid version for about 4 years. I've had HubSpot CRM, well, the sales, paid sales and paid marketing. And then at some point, you know, I felt like, no, this is too much for me. I don't need all these bells and whistles. So I scaled down and now I have HubSpot free CRM and, you know, one of the sales licenses and that's it. But the idea is if I've got everybody's birthday, every client's birthday in there, I could pretty much send them a postcard on their birthday.
Absolutely.
You know,
it's very easy to do.
Yeah. And they would not be receiving this from many people.
No.
They probably have happy birthday emails from everybody, yes, but they wouldn't receive a physical card they can touch, they can put on their desk. You know, and you're not going to be sending like hordes of it. It's just when somebody's birthday comes, your CRM knows, it would just push that order to a printer and it's taken care of.
Exactly. That's the vision right there. It's, let those centralized software tools like HubSpot and Pipedrive and Zoho and, Active
Salesforce.
Campaign and
Let's not
Salesforce.
forget somebody, Dennis. Okay, who else?
Yeah. All of my friends.
There's so many of them. Yeah, I know.
We're friends with all of them. We love them all. But that's really where all this intelligence needs to reside. And then use different channels to accomplish different objectives. And, let mail be a part of that for certain things that make sense. Like you said, a birthday or, an anniversary since somebody signed up, things that are worth celebrating. You can have an automated little sequence to send out a letter or a postcard, and it will help you build your brand in the mind of your customer, and it will help you really feel like a different company than everybody else.
Let's spread the love.
Spread the love. Exactly.
Thank you very much, Dennis. That was insightful, interesting, and I hope we have presented a new idea to some of the people who are not doing direct mail.
Well, thank you, Amir. This was great. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your audience, and I had a lot of fun.
Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Hey, before you go, I would like to remind you that if you have a WordPress-based website, you need to be really looking after its maintenance and security and having a professional looking after it. So if you feel overwhelmed, or if you feel that this back end and boring stuff is something that you don't want to do, please do hire someone, but get it done. Do not delay this. Do not leave your WordPress website not updated. Do not leave your plugins not updated. This will open it up for hacking and malware, and you don't want that. If you're unsure, head to my website, humantalents.ca. That's human talents, one word, humantalents.ca, and click there. You'll be able to book like a 30-minute consultation, and we can discuss this together and see if we can help you. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.